Wake up! I'm Doug, and this is the Taste and Sensibility channel. And today we're at coffee review number 20, where we're looking at this coffee from Nepal. It's from a single farm called Pahadi. And this particular one is hard to go out and buy, but there's a little bit available. I'm going to pour some here and keep talking, so these can be cooler by the time I'm tasting them. So I'm excited about this coffee because it's a microlot, and microlots is the second topic of the day. But this is still on the Smoking Beans website. It's listed there for wholesale price is something like $23 a kilo, or 2.2 pounds. So it's out there at a reasonable price. But as I usually do, I'm going to show you on a map where this comes from. But my usual map source, Coffee Obsession, a great book by Annette Mulder, is not able to show you exactly because Nepal is not really one of the coffee growing regions that she discusses. So you go to Google Maps and see what they can tell you. Just because of a recent article, let's look at the camera once in a while. Just because of a recent article on the Nepalese coffee, I saw a farm that had a view of the Annapurna Mountains. So I just picked that as a likely region. So I couldn't find Pahadi as a place name. It was associated with an ethnic group, also known as Pahari, and it was not really localized to any one spot. It was people spread all over the country. So I just said, okay, Annapurna Mountains. And to give you an idea of scale, well, Kathmandu is the capital, and Mount Everest is over here, not too far away. So this is hard to believe that they can grow coffee there. Certainly have the mountains for it. Oh, here's a relief map. That's pretty cool to show you. So lower elevations here, higher elevations up here. And I believe that the coffee growing region for today's coffee is in this area. Over here is Mount Everest, over here is Kathmandu. So there's that map. So I ordered this because it was a microlot, well over a year ago, and maybe more like a year and a half. I just got an email from Smoking Beans saying, would you be interested in these microlots? And Nepal was one of the locations, and other places were Colombia and El Salvador. So I said, I just bought all three, and they were expensive. But I bought them all, and I was still pretty early in my tasting and exploring walk, so I wasn't always sure what I was tasting, but I knew they were different than the other things I'd been tasting. Just couldn't always describe how. So this was my most recent. Well, I was able to buy another bag recently, and the other two that I bought aren't available, but I'll bring those out for the special topic. And I got another bag of this and roasted them pretty well. They recommend light to medium, yeah. And I got a pretty nice lightish medium. They're not very dark, they're not oily, they're dry, a little blotchy, different browns, but this roast is on the lighter side. So, may as well start in. Okay, I'm going to let it cool off some more, but that will let me remind you to like the video, give it a thumbs up down below, leave a comment or question, and subscribe to the channel and click that bell to get notified when the new videos come out, hopefully on Mondays. So on the nose, it's not especially dark, deep, rich. There might be some sort of sweetness or fruitiness to it. Taste-wise, it's that vague plumminess of Central American coffees plus something, plus some other kind of fruit. There's an earthiness to it, but it's very faint and subtle and distant. It might be a cocoa, dark chocolate note in there. It's an interesting mixture. I haven't had anything like this. So it's some sort of red fruit, a plum, a red plum, some sort of not so sweet berry or cherry or strawberry. And the sweetness is muted. Wow, that's just an odd combination. It's very clean. It's sort of bright, which implies acidity, but it's a very bright, open flavor without acidity that I usually place and understand. The more of those fruity, lighter flavors come out when you don't roast it so darkly, so all that's consistent with what I've done here. Wow. Fairly complicated, fairly subtle and nuanced. Which is the worst kind of coffee to give to me because I don't always have words for everything. But this one is delicious and different and subtle. And I'm going to stretch this bag out and enjoy it for another year, I hope. So let me pull out the second one. Let's see if I can say any more about it. So I would think Nepal's a tough place to grow coffee. It certainly has the mountains, but it's not tropical, it's not subtropical, semi-tropical. So somewhere in there they've got conditions for growing coffee trees. This is all Arabica and a pretty good grade, and it made me start looking for other coffee growing regions and industry in Nepal. And it's a thriving, growing industry there. It's small, but there are lots of farmers, and there's more all the time, I think. So it's getting on people's radar. So here, that sip had some tartness to the fruit. Yeah, that's just got so many dimensions and directions things are going in. So definitely fruit, but hard to identify. There's some sort of sweetness associated with the fruit, and there's a tartness associated with the fruit. And then down below, there's a fairly clean, earthy note that is right next to the cocoa dark chocolate notes that are down there, and they're fairly subtle. Hidden, muted, softened. But that is pretty good effect overall. It's a good combination. So I wish I could say more that was specific about it. So this comes from a small farm. And this might be what they consider their best stuff. And it's just available, and they don't grow much of it. It's not available. Otherwise they would have a lot more. They'd want to sell all they could. And Nepal's not a traditional coffee growing region, so I can see how they didn't sell out of this as a microlot when their El Salvador and Colombian microlots disappeared quickly. You pretty much had to strike within 2 or 3 weeks of the email to get any, but Nepal surprises people or confuses people, and they still have this around. I think they've got a harvest date 2018, 2019, so same as most of my smoke and beans coffees. So let's go through the growing details for this. Grew at 1100 to 1600 meters. The varieties are Bourbon and Typica, Bourbon and Typica. The region, I'm still looking up Pahadi versus a particular farm, because Smoking Beans gets some of their details wrong now and then. It's a washed process in a local farmers cooperative is where it comes from. And then they recommend the light to medium roast, which I did pretty well, I think. And they give tasting notes: savory, sweet, maple syrup, grape, white peach. I wouldn't describe the fruity part that way. Maple is an interesting note. There is a sweetness that's more complicated or more full. But I was associating it with the fruit. And then savory sweet's an interesting description. I might like that better than anything I said. But I've enjoyed this every time I've had it. I've been able to roast it well and take care of it. So that's a shame to roast it poorly after all the things that the coffee's gone through to get to us. And now I think I will try some cream. And I know now that I have no spoon. So I'll use a swirl method. I'd say that's mixed well enough. Ooh. There's a familiar buttery, creamy butterscotch and chocolate milk. The chocolate notes are really light. But that goes back to the Central and South American tendency to taste like a caramely chocolate milk with cream added to me. Your mileage may vary. So that's just so good with cream. I like tasting these with cream, but I don't usually drink them that way. My coffee could last 3 or 4 hours in the morning once I'm at work. I just don't want the milk and cream sitting out that long, especially at the bacterial incubation temperatures. So, definitely a winner with cream. It's a nice, light, buttery, caramely, and very light chocolate milk. But tasty, and very different than the uncreamed coffee. So I will come back in a little bit and set up to taste 2 other coffees that are also microlots, but not available anymore. This is still on the Smoking Beans website, and I'll put a link down below. So if you're interested at all, take a look. Back in a flash. So I'm back and set up for a tasting here. I'm going to cup 2 different microlots that I bought about a year ago from Smoking Beans. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about what a microlot is, although that's kind of hard because there's not really a technical definition or a legal definition. But it usually is applied to a very small amount of something from some grower or a co-op because of some special situation regarding the growing or the processing of the coffee. It might grow on the side of a hill and it turns out way better than the rest of the coffee in that farmer estate. It might be grown in a certain altitude band of an estate or an area, or it might be grown under a different shade crop and turns out differently there. Or there could be something different about the processing that they do. Most places that wash everything. Most places that do natural everything, but maybe they dabble in the other process and it comes out with a special quality that they're not used to and they think is really notable or remarkable. So in most microlot situations, something is different, usually better, and the grower wants to try to accentuate this or highlight this or bring it out more. or showcase it, or maybe grow a little bit more of it and see how much he can get. So they will usually go to some effort to try to expand the intensity or the range or the volume of coffee that's produced that way. And after they've made their effort, it might get the attention of buyers who are tasting lots of different coffees there, and it might bring a higher price. So those are the growers and buyers' reasons for designating something as a microlot. But it also could just be a trick or a marketing term to get you to buy something that hasn't moved. You need to know your vendor, your provider, your roaster or importer, and you need to trust what they do. So that's what I like about Smoking Beans, is their transparency on so many things. And everything that I've gotten seems to be just as described. And I would tend to trust Berman or Sweet Maria's or something like that if they ever pop up with microlots of things, because of their reputations and their attention to quality in general. So it's very good to know your importer or roaster who's doing this microlot selling to you, so that you'll know it's not some sort of trick. So to appreciate microlot coffee, you have to have some familiarity with coffee notes in different regions and know what the breadth of flavors and aromas is like, to know what's special about the ones that you're interested in buying. So it wasn't quite the case when I bought these things, but I appreciate them now. So I'm glad I have them around, and then these two things have disappeared. This is still out in the wild. The Nepal is not a normal coffee growing region, so there was not demand. Just wasn't a hot topic. But these guys, poof, gone in a week or two, I think. It did not take long. I got an email about August 3rd of 2019 from Smoking Beans saying, hey, we've got these 6 microlots that we think will disappear quickly. And it looks like 5 of them did, and this you can still get. So this is the topic of today's single origin coffee, and you can go find it. But these guys disappeared pretty quick. Well, just since I have all my purchase documents here, this Nepal Pahadi was $23 for a kilo at the time, and that's what the price is today. The El Salvador honey over here was $15 for a kilo, so $8, less than $8 a pound. And then this was $16 a kilo for the San Pascual from Colombia. So again, about $8 a pound for an unroasted specialty coffee with some special features, some special quality, flavor, aroma that the growers thought was worth pointing out, and the buyers thought was worth paying for. So if you are a little more experienced in your coffee tasting, a microlot might be something interesting for you to try. And of course, these come from a place that roasts coffee as well, so you don't have to buy the unroasted beans, but the roasted ones will be a little bit more expensive than the prices I just gave. And then the features might not always be to your liking. It might be a flavor profile that doesn't really fit in your wheelhouse or go along with your preferences, but just being able to tell the difference and detect the difference is a pretty good step. And you might have a friend who might appreciate it, and you might know what your coffee friends' preferences are like, so be ready to share and send it on to someone who might appreciate it more or enjoy it more. And then I guess the last important point about microlots is don't expect to get more. Lots of these growers are trying to produce the same stuff in the same, even small amounts every year, but doesn't always work. Coffee is an agricultural product, and things change from year to year to year, and then someone might be willing to pay more, and it might shift over to some other supply chain that you're not in. So the places where you go and get yours might not have access to it anymore. So there's lots of reasons for microlots to go away, but there's certainly not enough for everybody. There's not enough for one buyer sometimes. And it's just a kind of a vapor or a mist that appears somewhere for a little while, and then it's gone and we don't see it again. So expect it to be hard to get again. Just wanted to point out a few of those items. Now, I'm going to get my water into the pouring pitcher and do a cupping. I'm starting a 4-minute timer. And I'll speed it up to make it, if not unboring, then at least comedic. Okay, so the 4 minutes is up. And I'm gonna mix these up, break through the crust. Hopefully most of the grounds settle. That one's behaving. Okay, so that took a while, but I think I'm ready to taste. Now, let me set this bag back up. I forgot this was the prop. Totally empty bag. It's just a prop for the prop. So I'm starting in with El Salvador honey. So I've had this one recently, and I got really excited. So I know what I'm expecting there. But this one, I haven't got the special thing necessarily every time I tasted it. So here we go. There's a tartness on the aroma. The nose has a tart or acidic or fruity thing that I don't usually get. So that's what I notice on the nose. Ooh. Acidity. And a very mild fruitiness. The acidity is stronger than the sweetness from the fruit. And it's not a real dark roast here. This is fairly lightish brown on my scale of things. I didn't get to the usual medium darkness that I usually shoot for. And the recommended roast level is light to medium. So more flavors come out at light. And I'm getting all that. I think the honey process is one of those natural processes where the fruit ferments right on the seeds. And then the beans pick up a little bit of that fermentation taste. So there's a fruitiness, there's a funkiness to it, and I think that's what the feature is here. I think honey process, yeah, I should research this before I start talking about it, huh? Is one of those natural fermenting processes that leaves a little flavor, adds a little flavor to the beans that you wouldn't have if you just used a wash process. I'm thinking I'm getting a trace of that funkiness. The fruitiness is light, distant, and then there's several things contributing to it, so it's hard to pick out. Light fruits, apple, pear, kiwi. Not getting any plumminess. Yeah, it could be in there. It's covered up by other things. The acidity is strong. It's a bright flavor, but more of a fruity tartness, and maybe related to the processing funk. So nothing objectionable about it to me, but the flavors are mild and subtle. And let's see, there's probably a few details here. This says a single farm, Finca El Naranjito. Honey process. I don't need to be reading that one. I can read this one. Apaneca region and Lama Tepic. And the variety is only Bourbon. 1,200 to 1,400 meters. Oh, okay, here's there. Ooh, look at that. kiwi, brown sugar, honey, tropical orange blossom. So I don't know what tropical is. It's the only term there. I don't get a lot of honey, brown sugar, orange blossom. There's a tartness. I wouldn't call it sweetness. I said kiwi. Apple, pear. It's a light, tart fruit is the main fruitiness I'm getting. Let me take one more taste, bigger taste, not just a spoon. Yeah, that is good. Some people would like it, some people might not like it. And don't really have a mouth rinse here, so I will go on to our next coffee and see what's in this cup. And I roasted this a little darker than I intended. This is a medium to light to medium recommended roast level also. But I started to hit second crack here, and the beans got oily. They're nice and dark. They're shiny. They're real oily in the bag. But I taste these special features just fine, because it was not hard to find. I didn't have to go looking for the special feature here. So it's a darker, deeper, richer, robust taste. There's an earthiness at the bottom. It's a fairly clean earthiness. It's not real muddy. There's could be a little cocoa and chocolate at the bottom and earthiness, but it's cleaner than average. But the thing I'm getting is that funky fermented fruit note is much stronger. You get all sorts of dark fruits, more like raisins, figs, dates. And then there's a funkiness to it, like, oh, something started boiling here. And it's just one of the notes. It's not unpleasant, it's not bad. The coffee's not spoiled, it's just a note that I'm connecting to the fruits. So there's a kind of sweetness, darker fruits, maybe berries, but they don't, maybe it's not the juiciest, sweetest berry at the type, at the time of its peak flavor. It's a partly unripe character and then partly too ripe character. So it's a great combination. That is a special feature. I like it. It's subtle and nuanced, but you don't have to go looking for that natural process funkiness. That fermenting coffee cherry flush fermenting right next to the bean adds a little something to it. Something from the fruit goes into the bean and stays there and provides a little extra flavor that wasn't in the bean inherently. And I didn't really understand the natural process till I tasted this guy. And I go, oh, okay, I get it now. So it's pretty easy to overdo it, I think. It's easy to underdo it and make it a much milder, more subtle flavor. But the funk is strong with this one, and that's what led me to understand the natural process. So, and I've got more of this. I got another quarter pound maybe in there to enjoy before it disappears off my radar. But this one taught me natural processing flavors. So I hope that was a little interesting for you and a real geeky topic. And I hope you can go out and find some of your own microlots and enjoy them. So as always, please give this video a thumbs up. Leave a comment or question down below. Subscribe to the channel and click that bell to get notified for our next coffee adventure video. So come back for more, and cheers.